Hey denture peeps, I have made videos on this before, but they get lost in the ether. So let's talk about horseshoeing dentures. So horseshoeing a denture means that you're removing the palate of the denture. And I see this kind of thrown around loosely on here. And I just had a message in my folder that this person was asking me my opinion on it and saying that they're being told when they get new dentures, they should have them horseshoed. And keep in mind, every time I talk about this subject and say how you will lose suction, I always have somebody that comes on here and says, I have horseshoe dentures and I have fine suction. I don't believe that, but I'd have to see it. Anywho, this is what actual horseshoeing of a denture really is, okay? When you remove the palate. So just like the name would indicate, it is shaping the denture like a horseshoe, okay? So it's removing the entire palate, okay? So all of this area would be removed, and so you would have this horseshoe shaped upper denture left. So because you're taking out that entire area, the only part that is covering your gums is this part, okay? So you cannot get suction with a horseshoe denture. You have to wear some sort of product, some sort of adhesive to stick it up into your mouth and stick it to your gums, because it is impossible to suction. It's like taking a suction cup and cutting out a big C-shaped, piece out of it and trying to get suction on something. It's not possible. So, like I said before, it is something that I hear, this terminology, horseshoeing, and that's what it refers to, but I think that some people are saying it and they are just mistaken, okay? So when you have a denture that is maybe gagging you, it's too far back up to your soft palate and it's causing problems, the first thing that you should be looking at is your denture loose? Okay, if it's loose, it's not fitting properly, saliva is going to gather up there and it's going to cause gag reflex. If the denture is too thick here, on the palate, that is going to interfere with the tongue. Every time the tongue moves, it's going to catch on that palate and that can cause gagging. And also, if the back border of the denture is too thick back there, that is another thing right here that can cause gagging, because the tongue is catching against that ledge every time it moves forward, and that can cause gagging. So when I make dentures, I make sure and thin this palate up to shape, to the shape of the patient's actual palate. I want to mimic the shape of the actual palate and make the denture as thin as possible while still maintaining the structural integrity of the acrylic, but thin it way out and then bevel it towards this back edge so that when it goes up in your mouth, it gradually goes back to the edge to where you can't even really discern the edge of it with your tongue. Those are great things that you want to look at before you ever consider taking off any part of this palate. Now, with that said, I have patients that have very strong gag reflexes once in a while, and no matter whether the denture's fitting properly, it's fitting snugly, they're getting great suction, all of that, it's thin, it's beveled, all of that, and they just have a very strong gag reflex. Then I do this. I take off a little bit of this at a time. So I will go in and take off, about that much, okay? And bevel it back, let them try it out, and sometimes let them try it out for a day or two or three and see if that is more tolerable. If they're still gagging, then I go in and take a little bit more out, a couple more millimeters. Bevel it back and let them try that out for a few days, and so on and so forth. Now, once you get to a certain point, though, you're going to lose suction. So I try to avoid losing suction as much as possible. But, sometimes you got to take it back a little bit more. Okay? But most of the time, when you take it back like that, it's not horseshoeing it. It's just reducing the length of that palate, okay? And thinning out that palate and beveling the back of it. See, you can see the light through these dentures, okay? That's important. Acrylic doesn't have to be huge and thick like a hockey puck, okay? It's strong. This is a high impact acrylic. I've showed on my other videos where I toss this down the hallway and they don't break so easily. I mean, you can break them. I mean, I could throw this hard and I can break it, but it's not going to break that easily. It can be thin, it can be comfortable, it can be shaped to the shape of the roof of your mouth. See the light through that? It does not have to be super thick. Okay, and you can take this palette down a little bit at a time and try it out. So, horseshoeing a denture, I do not advise it. I've only had to reduce the denture, more like this one in extreme cases. After decades of doing what I am doing, making dentures, I have never, ever, ever had to horseshoe a denture like this, an actual horseshoe. The only time that I have ever made a denture in this shape is when a patient has implants on the upper that we can snap onto. Implant supported dentures. Otherwise, this, I have never, ever, ever done it. So, there's your denture horseshoe education for the day. Don't do it unless you want to wear adhesive forever. Alrighty, have a great day. Bye-bye.